Karyn, we can't hear you. I can't hear you. You're muted. I bet you.
And I did such a good intro. It was a fantastic intro. I am really upset about this. I did the whole Are We Live thing. I said, where is Kristin? I hope everybody was off to a great week. And there was a lot happening there in that intro.
Well, here we are. We made it. It's our third
we did.
time
We made
here
it
together.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I actually made it back from New York City too. So, you know, I was a little bit nervous about going up there, Kristin. I wasn't really sure what to expect.
And how was it? Like, what?
You know, from my perspective, my perspective was really good. And I actually came back sort of feeling to myself like, hey, things are not so bad. But I had to remind myself that while I'm there, I'm in a little bit of a bubble. And, we're both very blessed. And I'm very fortunate that when I travel and I get to go to these amazing places, including one of my favorite cities on the planet, I'm in a situation where I'm very concealed and sheltered in that environment. So I don't know how much I was exposed to, but I put myself in some situations where I could have been exposed to some stuff. And really what's crazy about it is I went down near Union Square and walked around. I took a lot of really nice long walks by myself. And I went to the memorial that was set up for the Israeli hostages and everybody who was a victim of October 7th, tragically. And when I was there, I thought to myself, I don't really see any pro-Palestinian terrorists. And I'm going to start calling them terrorists, and I'm going to start calling them pro-Hamas. So I'm going to try to change my language, because that's indeed what they are. I mean, it's pro-Palestinian isn't true. They are pro-Hamas. These people are terrorists. And this morning woke up to a headline in the New York Post that at that very location, there was some protesting that happened overnight that was pretty serious. And they actually targeted a festival where money was being raised for victims of October 7th right at this memorial. So, it goes to show, I was thinking to myself, I'm very sheltered. I'm in my little bubble when I'm there. And then I took myself out of the bubble and put myself in some situations. But if you're not there at the right place in the right time, you might not get the full picture. And now I'm a little bit terrified seeing what's unfolded. My daughter lives there, and I worry greatly about her living in this environment.
I can't believe your daughter's still living there. I mean, I lived there for 15 years. It's a great city, but it has changed so much since I moved in 2019 that I can't imagine living there. I'm thankful that you made it back okay and that there was no incidents while you were there.
There weren't. And I have to say that, I saw glimmers of hope in what is a post-COVID world in New York, because, being there, and you came down to Florida. I think you came down to Florida around COVID time. Was it after or before that you came down to Florida?
It was like 6 months before. It was right when we did the fundraiser. Remember when we met?
That's right.
In 2019 in September for Roger Stone. We did the fundraiser in, where was that? Delray? No, was it Delray? Yeah. It was fun.
That was, that's interesting. It's right before
we never actually got to meet in person. I think that was our first time.
Yeah, we had talked quite a bit. We had worked together a little bit, but I hadn't met you in person. You're right. And that was right. I mean, right before my stuff came together, and right before, that corrupt magistrate that raided Mar-a-Lago threw me in jail for 30 days. So, when you mention that time, I get a little bit of panic. And that COVID time was super tumultuous for so many of us. You have the persecution of conservatives that's still, on fire today. Look what's going on with Donald Trump. And I know we have Joe Hoft coming up later on, which I'm excited about, good friend of the show. But it's been incredible to watch the deterioration of our country. But then what's happened to some of these big cities that are riddled by crime after COVID? And New York, I think, is a testament to making the best comeback that they can under very, very bad circumstances. And that city is not going to survive if there aren't major changes. But the good news is that in the people that live in New York, like my daughter and my friends that I saw that when I was up there, I think that they really see hope in staying in the city that they love, and that they think that things can change. So maybe we'll have a little optimism on a Tuesday.
Well, I'm here for Optimism Tuesday. That sounds
okay, good. Because tomorrow's gonna be a rabbit hole, and tomorrow I want to talk about the indoctrination of children, and in particular into this pro-Hamas movement and what's going on and who's funding it. And as no surprise, all roads sort of eventually lead to the powers that be and people like George Soros and others. So I'm sure none of that is going to shock our audience. I'll be in the chat in a little bit once we get Joe settled and logged in. But I think that everybody is going to be really surprised at just how deep this goes. And I think it makes a valid argument for changing the way we're educating our children. And, as a mom who homeschools, maybe that's the future. I don't know. I know it's not for everybody, but when you hear what I have to say tomorrow on this rabbit hole and what's going on with our kids, it's gotten a lot worse, Kristin. And as the mom of a young boy, I'm sure, these are things that are going to be at the top of your mind too.
They definitely are. And it's, it's why I moved to Houston, right? I moved to Houston for a special school. Acton Academy is where my son goes to school. There's only 30 kids in his school, and they only have 2 hours of core education a day, and the rest is play and team building, and they make comic books together, and they don't force an agenda down their throat. But it's also expensive, and not everyone can afford to send their child to, a private school. And it's deeply concerning. And I know not everyone, has time to homeschool. So, what do we do? Where's the mid ground on that?
And maybe it's these smaller schools. Like I was reading a study. I went to a Montessori school back in the 70s when Montessori was, I guess, just beginning. I don't know really the whole history of it, but I think it started in the 60s from what I recall. And now there's all these studies on Montessori education as an example where children learn so much more through play and interaction, and especially young boys. Like young boys are not built to sit in circle time. That's just not what they're programmed for. They're programmed to be out, in the woods, picking up frogs and, learning through play and doing the things that little boys do. And I know with your son, you certainly let him do that. So this school at 30 kids sounds like it's a really good solution. We need more of those.
And this school, I think, is very unique. And a fun little quick story is that they encourage kids to do, many things as long as they're responsible for their actions. So, they had sent home a note, please send a change of clothes and mud boots. It's Houston, it's been raining. I pick my kid up one day and he's covered in mud. He's got no socks and shoes on because now he has found that he really enjoys not wearing socks and shoes and just walking around. And he's gone through the 2 pairs of clothes that I sent and the one that he's wearing. He's like, I had the best day. I splashed in so many puddles. And the owner of the school says, I've never seen a kid enjoy splashing and almost rolling around in the puddle more than your son. And I said, well, that's great. And so now we just have a little joke in the car, splash responsibly. Please just change your shoes. That's all I care about. And then we come home and have a shower. So it's definitely, I notice a difference in his.
I love that. I wish I could I'm going to get into the chat. I want to know what the chat's saying about the story because I know the chat is eating this up right now because I know everybody can relate to what you're talking about. And I think on that very positive note and beautiful moment about your son, we should get into Jesus calling. So if everybody's ready, I'll do that. Rest in my presence, allowing me to take charge of this day. Do not bolt into the day like a racehorse suddenly released. Instead, walk purposefully with me, letting me direct your course one step at a time. Thank me for each blessing along the way. This brings joy to both you and me. A grateful heart protects you from negative thinking. Thankfulness enables you to see the abundance that I shower upon you daily. Your prayers and petitions are winged into heaven's throne room where they are permeated with thanksgiving. In everything, give thanks, for this is my will for you. Amen.
That was amazing. And we have Joe Hoft. He has been here for a few minutes watching and listening. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. Karyn, I don't know if you want to, if you don't know who Joe Hoft is.
Joe and I go way back. Joe used to come on our morning show when we were on a network that I don't want to mention. I don't want to give them any credit here, but Joe was always one of my favorite guests on that morning show that will not be mentioned because now we're on Wake Up Patriots. Good to see you, Joe.
It's great to be here. Great to be here. Like Harry Potter, that show not to be mentioned.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's
keep
it positive. Keep it real. I know you always do.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's great to see you guys. It's great. Really great to be here. Thanks.
Well, Karyn, I'm not sure if you knew this. Joe also has a son about Carter's age.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Sure
didn't
do.
know that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we share stories sometimes. He has some really great stories
Oh,
about his
it's a
son
joy.
maneuvering through COVID.
Yeah. Well, I have two older daughters and from a first marriage, and beautiful girls, beautiful blonde girls, and tall, beautiful girls. And then I was remarried back in some time ago, and we had a little boy who was born in Hong Kong while I was over there, and my wife's
Oh, wow.
Chinese. And so we got this guy, but he's a big guy. He's tall like me. He's going to be a big guy, and he's just beautiful. The teachers love him. He just finished third grade. He's going into fourth. He had a real strict teacher. All the parents really didn't like the teacher. I don't think. I hope she doesn't hear this, but because she was so strict, but she loved our little boy, and he's just a good boy, and we got him in taekwondo and football, and we're getting him into everything so that so he can really enjoy things. I loved what you guys were saying about boys, man. They're just great. They are awesome. I was in Hong Kong one night out for a walk. I used to go for walks in the evening. And I remember one night I'm walking, and this kid, probably 12, 13, I don't know how old, was on his bike. It's dark, going down a hill without his hands on the handlebar. And I'm just like, that is a boy. That is the definition of all boy. Just risk takers and crazy in a sense, but just free. And that's what I love about boys. They're just fantastic. So I had two daughters, and to me, daughters were a lot of work. This guy it's just been fun. I call my little buddy and stuff. It's just great. Yeah, I love it. Love it.
Yeah,
And
as
he
a mom
started
of
kindergarten
sorry, Chris. I was
in
gonna say as a
COVID,
mom.
right?
We're both talking.
No.
I got you.
Karyn.
Okay, Karyn, you go first.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think, Kristin, as a mom of, three grown daughters and having a son later in life, it's really a joy to appreciate how great boys are. And I enjoy your son so much, watching him, through our friendship grow up, and just what a beautiful soul he is. You're incredibly blessed.
Mm.
I agree with that, and he lets me know that frequently. But he does go around, singing he has the best mom, which is fun.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and you guys talked about COVID, and so we moved here from Hong Kong in 2020, and during COVID, and we got him in a nice school, Christian Catholic school down here, not far from where you used to live, Kristin, and it was so, and I've mentioned this on some other shows here recently. It was so sad. I don't know if it was sad, but it would break my heart to drop him off as a kindergartner at school, and he has to wear a mask, and we couldn't escort him to his class. He had to walk by himself through the school building all the way to his kindergarten class all by himself. And I just used to think, this is maddening. This kid's a kindergartner. And I was curious how he was able to do it so courageously, really, as a kindergartner, walk through school all by himself. And he told me what he did was he sang this song from SpongeBob SquarePants, which is "It's the Best Day Ever." I don't know if you've ever seen it or heard it.
Yes.
It's the cutest song. It's the best. And he sang that to himself as he walked to class. And that's how he comforted himself through this journey that he had to go through every morning just to get to his classroom during COVID. So I just look back at those times and think, what was that madness? As we look back, it was just madness to have these kindergartners of all things. Of course, we knew then, and we know now they were at risk of dying from COVID at about 0%. Probably of dying from a bicycle accident would have been even higher. So, anyways, yeah, it's
And to
wonderful
be in a
see these
new
guys.
country. So he's in his first year of school in a new place.
Yeah.
And this is what you put this
The
breaks
children,
my
yeah.
heart.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
did.
Carter's like a year younger, so we missed that. There were no daycares open, for a long duration of time. So we were struggling a bit there, but I cannot imagine sending them to school their first year.
How about it? We went through a lot of Legos. We bought a lot of Legos during that period of time and did a lot of Legos together. We got boxes of those things. So anyways, that's how we survived.
Wow, Joe, I know you're following a bunch of stuff for us. And, we got on the subject of COVID, and I want to mention, My Patriots Supply for a minute. They're a big sponsor of the show. I know you're familiar with them. And, it makes me think, are we in a position right now where we need to get prepared for another lockdown? We covered this last week on Tuesday. We talked a lot about this, and our chat really feels like we could be on the verge of something big. And I've been following this whole bird flu conversation and watching that emerge in a way that is strikingly familiar to January of 2020. And it seems like we might be 90 or 120 days away from, a shutdown. And if you haven't gotten your supplies from My Patriot Supply, now would be the time to do it. They have $200 off a emergency kit. It's a 3-month emergency kit. For our viewers, you can go to preparewithvnn.com and get yours. And I know the food's delicious because I talk about it in chat, especially the fettuccine Alfredo. But do you think, Joe, that we are looking right now at another shutdown and another potential pandemic on the horizon?
I very possibly. I do feel and fear and I go back and forth on this. That something's going to happen. We've got an election. Joe Biden's, he's out to lunch. He's just so out to lunch. He just doesn't even, will he even make it to the election? It's all about winning the election. To me, everything right now is about winning the election. You win the election, you either take over America or we save it. That's kind of where we're at right now. And so will they throw anything and everything out there? Yes. I guess, Karyn, the thing that grabs me, maybe that concerns me most is really the invasion that we've allowed on our southern border and all these military-aged men that are in this country that, by the way, I have no idea where these people are. We've got millions of these people, and where are they? And so that's a real big concern. If China invades Taiwan and we go to a world war, I just heard Russia moved some ships to Cuba over the past couple days, maybe a submarine. We've got it could be a mess because we've got all these people inside this country that we know are terrorists. We know they're coming from countries other than Mexico and Chinese. And, this strategically, they've had a long time to figure out how they could destroy this country if they want. So, you know what we're seeing as well. We're seeing the protests already. We're seeing these riots. Basically, they're gearing all that up. So that's happening. The fear of a type of pandemics there, and then on top of it, all these monsters that have been allowed into our country that we have no idea who they are. So I think it's the perfect storm, isn't it? It's just frightening what's going on. Plus, economically, and I know we're going to talk about a couple of items economically, but this country's a mess. The only thing keeping it going has been government spending, and then that's now causing this inflation, and so it's a mix that's just a bit of a nightmare, really. So there's a lot of stuff that could cause chaos. Maybe just economically we could have chaos. So all of that together could be, world war-ish. Some people are even mentioning that word now. So, nightmare.
Yeah, World War. I think Donald Trump used that word, didn't he, Kristen, the other day in that interview with Dr. Phil? He went all in about how we could be at the beginning of World War III.
I really liked that interview. I think that's a new audience for him, and it personalized him to people who maybe only were looking at clickbait. People just see a title. They don't click. They don't look in, most of them, a lot of them. And then, the rumor mill, I thought it was great. I watched it. I was like, oh, this is a move. This is an interesting move. I'm kind of shocked that it happened, but thrilled.
Yeah, I heard that really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it. Joe, you should watch it. It's good. It's really, Dr. Phil, I have to say, I appreciate the fact that he's gone out on a limb. And I know, Joe, you have a website too. I want to make sure that our chat knows where they can find you now, because I know a lot of them used to watch you in your former life with us when I was in my own former life. So where can everybody follow you and see your great content?
Well, thanks. Probably my homepage, joehoft.com, is the place to go if you really want to follow the writings that I do. And then I have a show. I'm now with Lindell TV. Got a show there daily. We've got a great station over there. A lot of, we got Bannon for 4 hours and Lou Dobbs and Mike Lindell. And it's a great lineup. So I'm really happy to be over there. And then I still write and contribute at the Gateway Pundit as well. So, and Jim and I, we talk about every day, pretty much. We've been talking about all sorts of stuff and just really the destruction of America as well. And, I'll tell you one thing, talking to you guys today, is that's bizarre, but funny maybe, but also just really spot on with what's going on, is this whole Caitlin Clark story. I don't know if you guys have followed that at all, but we've been following her because we grew up in Iowa, and she's from Iowa, and she goes and she breaks all these records in college ball, makes these incredible passes and shots from half court. She's just something that you've never seen before. And she gets then all this attention and is doing so well. And she's a nice girl. She's only 22. She's just a beautiful, nice girl that can shoot lights out. And therefore she broke every record. She was breaking Stephen Curry's 3-point record. Pistol Pete Maravich's his record. We both played basketball. So this could take away and just kind of step outside of the reality of the stuff that's going on, the messes, the attacks. Gateway Pundit, Jim and I have been attacked, through lawfare, just like others, Rudy, etc., for reporting the truth and being accused of defamation. So life can be really challenging for the truth tellers these days, and people that want to save this country. And so we were able to get a little reprieve. And then this past weekend, they announced the Olympic team, and they didn't pick this beautiful girl, Caitlin Clark, and we were just broken hearted. It's like, what are you thinking? It's so dumb,
It's mind-boggling that they didn't pick her. Like, it's really, if you are following it, it's a real WTF moment for sure.
Oh yeah. Dave Portnoy had a great tweet. He came out and just ranted on it about whoever the selection committee is. He says, "You are the dumbest people on earth." I mean, this girl is a phenom. She's some people can say she's like a Stephen Curry, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan combination. She's just unbelievable. Huge following. She brought all these numbers to the game, and then they axe her from the team. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, and we started looking at the numbers. They say, well, maybe she's not good enough for the pro ball, WNBA. It's a more physical game. Well, she's made more threes this year in the WNBA than any other player in the league that's going to the Olympics. So, and she's got more assists than any player other than one that's going to the Olympics. So it's not her performance. That's not it. And she's been put on this really terrible team that was last place. That's why they picked her. They got the first choice. And it's been, she had a lot of roadblocks, and then this happens. It's just like, what are these people thinking? It's almost, I don't know. You don't want to say suicidal, but but that's what people are saying. You are going to destroy your league by making decisions like this. This is your new base, and it's a huge base. They're finally making money. So but it's symbolic of what's going on in this country. And I had Owen Schroyer on my show yesterday. InfoWars is under massive attack now. Alex Jones, they're getting ready to get shut down. And I guess I shared. I think what this is about is communism, and communists hate exceptionalism. And that's why they hate America. And that's why they hate us. They hate exceptionalism. And that's why they've got to destroy this girl. Maybe, is it racism? Is it sexism? Why is she not on that team? Maybe it's just that they got to destroy anything good about this country. This good American people like you guys and me and our families. That's who they're after. And they don't want us to be great. We all just got to be marginalized if you're too good, or lifted up if you're too bad. And we're all going to be the same. And it's nonsense. It's the communist way.
It's wild. And when you say it too, it's so, what you just said is so MAGA, like in its essence, like make America great again. They hate that. They don't want to make anything great. And they don't want you to be great. They don't want me to be great. They definitely don't want Caitlin Clark to be great. And I got to tell you, I'm following the chat, and our chat is, really upset with the fact that, here is this girl who, is not, your typical basketball player as far as the woke agenda wants to call it. And the woke agenda, everything that she doesn't represent, is why she wasn't picked for the Olympics. It's that simple. And our chat's going crazy over there. They didn't pick her because she's not gay and because she's a white girl. I mean, everything that they say that they stand against, they didn't pick her for those reasons entirely.
That's right. She's a Catholic, went to a Catholic school in Des Moines, Iowa. Just a good girl. Her mom, I guess, came over and did her laundry all throughout college. Here she is making millions like her junior year now and senior year. And her mom's coming over doing her laundry. I mean, close-knit family, 2 brothers. They all love her. It's just cute. You see all this family would all be at all their games. It's just, it's the story of a close family. It's the story of a really good girl that's just excelling. Plus, she was a straight A student, So this is everything that they can't allow this to happen. And so we did find out who picked these girls. It's 5 women, 5 former WNBA players. One's Dawn Staley, that coach of South Carolina, who pretend like she's this great woman. Well, that choice was the dumbest choice she's ever made in her life. And I hope she's remembered for that, really, for the rest of her life. It's talk about nonsense. But and then 4 other players that used to play in the WNBA, and it's been, and I tell you what, none of them came out and announced it. They didn't have the courage to say, hey, here's our plans, and this is why we didn't pick Clark. They don't have that guts. They leak it to the media Saturday night, and it just cowards. So, this is something we've been really emotional about, because we even drove over and saw her. She was in Fort Myers in a tournament back around Thanksgiving, and we drove there just to watch her, because we're a couple Iowa boys. We're proud of this girl from Iowa, so
well, and what does that say, that this group of women have come together and said, we don't want this person to be the representative of our country, but yet we would push Dylan Mulvaney and things like that as a representative of our country in other ways. And it's like either, there's a coordinated attack, and maybe that's another, thing for Karyn to look into in her
coordinated attack. I like that. I like that, Kristin.
Or we're just having less and less people who actually do have family values, right? So if there are the 5 women that pick them, maybe only 4, maybe 3 have traditional values. I mean, I just don't understand.
You're right. 4 black women. I'll say that. 4 black women, one white woman, all played basketball. We know one's at least gay. Don't know about the rest. And so they made this choice without the best player. Like I said, she's made more threes than anybody in the WNBA this year. So so it's not her talent, and number 2 in assists. And here's the thing, though, the one person they did invite is Brittany Griner. You remember her? She played. She's gets caught, bringing hash oil into Russia, and I don't know what the penalty is, but I know, living in Hong Kong, you go into Singapore with cocaine and get caught, it's capital punishment. I mean, that they are so serious in other countries about drugs, and she goes into Russia with that, gets busted, thrown in prison, as y'all know, and then Biden trades her for some big arms dealer that was responsible for maybe numerous American deaths. And she gets out and she says, I'll never play for the American team overseas again unless I'm on an international team. She hadn't played a game this year until last Friday night, and yet she was selected to the Olympics team. She scored 11 points in her opener Friday night. So that's who's on the team. They had to get her on the team, but not Caitlin Clark.
So it's one disgusting. Of our people in the chat room says, and I think this is a very a great comment, trans awareness is listed as a tenet of sustainability in the UN 2030 agenda. This straight white girl from Ohio runs against the globalist grain. That was man_K. Thank you for that comment.
Yeah, it's insanity. It's insane. It's the destruction of the human being. It's, again, the destruction of greatness. We can't be great. We're going to throw up art that's just garbage. We don't have these great, Da Vinci works or whatever. You throw a, balloon on the wall or whatever, and that's art. We can't celebrate greatness, and risk and all these things that have made us great. The whole Western civilization's under attack right now. And so why would you allow somebody as great as her on the team, especially with family values, Christian, straight, and white? There's this push against white Americans and white in the West too, just in Europe, this continuous push to try to destroy these incredible cultures. And the US has got a great culture. And to me, that's one of the biggest risks about bringing in all these illegals and all this massive invasion is you change the culture. We've had a culture of fairness, of trust, justice, etc., and that's getting destroyed. And third world people don't know that. They come in here with the same culture and things fall apart. And that's maybe part of this plan of the destruction of America.
Well, they're succeeding, and it's scary because you think about, my parents coming here from Austria, as legal immigrants, during the Nazi occupation of Austria and fighting their way to become Americans. And it meant everything to be able to live in this country and live in freedom. And my father would talk about it every single day of his life. Like there was not a day that went by. And there's not that sense of American pride in these people that are coming here without being vetted, without really knowing what our country's about, without an expectation, and sometimes with an expectation that they're given directly by the Biden administration that they are going to get here and their life is going to be easy and their life is essentially going to be free because the government is going to pay for it. They are being promised socialism in this country, and they come here with an expectation of that socialism because that's what they're being sold, and that's all that a lot of these people know. So, as much as I think it is absolutely on their own onus that they're breaking the law to come here, and that needs to be something that they're held accountable for, we got to really think about, the axis of evil, as you mentioned, Joe, and the system that perpetuates this fraud and brings these people in here under a false expectation that they're going to get a free ride. And when I went to New York, the day that I was leaving, I had a couple of meetings and I was driving around again, some time to kill. And one of my favorite drives to make is to go down by the Palisades Interstate Parkway. I don't know if either of you are familiar with this drive. I'm sure chat people are going to blow up if you're from Jersey, but you're able to go and you actually go along the cliffs under the George Washington Bridge, and there's these beautiful rest areas and parks and a boat basin and places where you can barbecue under this lush green forest. And I went in there and all the parking lots were full, and I quickly started to notice that there were a lot of families, and I mean this in the most respectful way possible, because again, we're families that have no money on a Saturday afternoon. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to a county park or someplace where they can spend time with their family. It was overrun, and it was overrun with people wearing headscarves. It was overrun with people who obviously, just aesthetically, have recently come into this country. And to me, it did not seem like those people were going to assimilate based on the music they were playing, based on the fact that I felt a little uncomfortable as I parked my car and reorganized some of my stuff on my way to my next stop. I actually stopped and I took it all in. And I thought, wow, if I wanted to get out right now and take a nice little walk over by these boats over here, I would feel awkward. I would feel like everyone was looking at me just essentially because I would be different than everyone who was in this park. And it really makes you think, like, what is the culture that we're selling here in America right now? What is the culture? And here they are in a state-run park.
That's amazing. Yeah, go ahead, Kristin. Yeah.
I think they have to sell these people the dream because they need to keep the economy going, right? They need to keep the spending. So the 2024 stimulus is all of the illegal people coming here, giving them money so that they can spend within our economy. So they're propping it up, because we all know that, however many trillion, 5 trillion, I think is what the PPP money was, that's gone. And we'd be in a very deep recession right now if they just let us tank and do the right thing, and the economy will reset itself. But they don't want to do it. It's an election year, and all these people coming in. Well, we see it, and we emotionally are like, well, why aren't we giving to veterans? Why aren't we doing this with that money? But the deeper issue is that they need to keep spending. Otherwise, nothing will be moving in the economy, because giving these people $20 a day or whatever it is, they're going out and they're buying food. They're keeping all of these businesses going, because people who live here and who are working, we don't have the money for that anymore. Prices are too high. So,
right.
Okay, there you are. So I think that's really, if we look at it in a non-emotional way, and we just say, okay, well, why are they giving these people money? Okay, well, we have to be okay as Americans with saying, okay, let the economy tank. The Feds raise rates. They're trying to tank it. That's why they raise the rates. They want us to stop spending. They want things, and they want to bring inflation down, and they're not doing it. You look at the jobs report. I pay attention to all this stuff. I spent half my life in finance. I'm looking at the jobs report get revised every month or 2 months later, and it's not as good as we hope. But when people are working 2 jobs now instead of 1, and they just won't let the economy fail. And it has to happen in order to, reset.
Right. I saw this morning something like the average home now is it's cost 25% more to just maintain, maybe purchase, but certainly maintain a home. And you can see it. The one thing that I was happy to see come out was a couple of weeks ago, they came out with this, here's what fast food prices are now. And I thought we need a Happy Meal index, because that's really what the working young couple is facing. I know when I had little girls, we'd go to McDonald's, we did. And I don't have any shame in that. I liked going there. They liked going there. There was playgrounds and stuff. And it was great. And anyways, that's what a lot of people do. They like the fast food. They like to, they're busy. They don't have time to cook, whatever. This has been our society for a long time. And those prices have doubled. And I've been saying this inflation numbers bogus. How about a Happy Meal index? And of course it's doubled. We can see it. You go to some of these places, you're like, I'm paying twice as much now. And you notice, everybody's noticing that. So this inflation, due to this, like you said, Kristin, this massive spending from the government, and now they can't, I don't think, what I'm thinking is, you talk about what's the next, thing. Economically, they've got this country in a mess, because they're spending to keep things from crashing, but then that's now the inflation's out of control, and soon maybe just totally out of control. And I don't know what the resolution is for that. I don't know. And I remember hearing on Bannon's show a couple of years ago, this guy say, well, what happened every other time in history when it gets real bad economically around the world, which it is. China's economy is in terrible shape, etc. Europe, as far as I know. And they say, well, then you go to war. That's how this stuff, ends up. It's not a pretty picture.
It's not. And, and eating Happy Meals, consistently is also not a pretty picture. And I have to say that I was also guilty. I can tell how old your kids were, because you're talking about playgrounds at McDonald's, which I think for liability, reasons, we no longer have in America, which is really a sad state of affairs. But, I used to eat a lot more garbage than I eat now. The things that we were ingesting, I think for most of us, even like 15, 20 years ago, were entirely different. I've become much more aware of what my food intake is. I know, Kristin, you're obsessed too with making sure that you're being your healthiest, best self possible. And, we have some great sponsors on our program that help us bring products to our chat and our audience that are really going to help them. And we have a new sponsor that I want to mention. So we actually have Lean, who has become a sponsor. And I know everybody's talking about these dramatic weight loss injections and being able to really take control in a very quick way of your weight loss journey. But, we don't know all about those things and how that's going to work out long term, just like we didn't know how bad Happy Meals were until we're all sitting here talking about them, 15, 20 years later. But Lean is not for a casual dieter. It's really for somebody who needs a lot of help losing a lot of weight and hopefully quickly. It's the doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition. They've created Lean for frustrated dieters who have 10 or more pounds to lose. And we can get you started with 15% off. We can do rush shipping right now for our audience. And the actual website, so you can go there and check it out for yourselves, leanvnn.com. And if you enter VNN, you get that 15% discount. And that's promo code VNN at leanvnn.com. So get rid of all those Happy Meals that you've eaten over the years and start a new leaf. Turn it over. Good idea, Kristin. Are you in?
Well, listen, I love to be fit. I built myself a gym in my garage just so I would have no excuses, and it's beautiful. But, I wanted to follow back up on this Happy Meal. I actually was watching something on YouTube yesterday that said that McDonald's laid off, hundreds of people in California because of the $20, the $20 minimum wage, which, I don't know if anyone, and if you guys worked, in your teens, but I worked at my teens at a bunch of little places, and I was lucky if I got $6, $5 an hour. When I was 15, I was working. So, and I'm from California. And now, I haven't lived there in years, specifically because of the government, but, I'm deeply concerned about that state. And when you're talking about, the next thing is war, I think to California, and nothing has happened there. And this is such a beautiful state to live in. And they just continue with all of this bad, now we're going to tax you per mile that you drive or whatever. So you might have to log in, take a picture of your speedometer before and after a day and pay. Like, how do the people there, I don't know, Joe, what are your thoughts on that?
No, you're right. I saw something over the weekend too. I received this piece from a friend in New California. This group that's trying to, attempting to split off and use the West Virginia model from Civil War and create a new state. Just let LA and San Francisco and Sacramento, they can be their state of California. We want a new state. We don't want this crazy anymore. But they sent me some stuff about how the government out there, the state government of California now is so bankrupt. It's a couple $100 billion now behind, even though they have a balanced budget amendment, which apparently never's worked. And so what they do to handle this crisis is, at first, a couple of weeks ago, they announced they were going to push vouchers for the teachers. Instead of giving them a paycheck, they'll give them a voucher or something. The other thing that they announced over this weekend was that they're cutting back hours. So the DMV, instead of being open to you to go there to the DMV at some locations, it's now going to be closed, like, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday or whatever. So that's how you deal with a budget crisis. And I guess, like you guys mentioned earlier, you just keep taxing people to death. I wrote a book, my first book, about 10 years ago when I was in Hong Kong. And it was Falling Eagle, Rising Tigers, and I was seeing all this good stuff happening over in Asia Pacific, and the U.S. was falling apart under Obama. But one thing I noticed was the taxes. In Hong Kong was rated every year as the best tax regime in the world. It was very simple. It was 16% max, companies or individuals. It's like a simple form, and they always had a surplus. And compared that to the U.S., and the one place that I compared it to was California. Somebody wrote an article calling it Taxifornia, because even somebody with a $50,000 a year income was paying half their income in taxes. That's just not a lot to live off of, $25,000 for maybe a young family. you can't get by. And that was back, 10 years ago. You certainly couldn't get by with something like that, but their taxes keep going up. And it's insanity after a while. You just, it's like Atlas Shrugged or whatever, some of these famous books of the past, right? It's like, at what point it doesn't make sense to continue to work.
Right. And how many of us have found ourselves in more debt, over the last few years, after Donald Trump left office? A lot of us have suffered a financial hit, under the Biden administration. And, it's really been hard. I mean, you talk about just on the simple level of, fast food and everything and all these economic things that have doubled our pricing. But just on a very simple level, like, your family, everything, nothing has changed for me. Nothing has changed for you. Nothing has changed for you, Kristin. And, here we are with a situation where a lot of us are carrying more debt. And we have also Done with Debt, who's a new sponsor of the show. And they are here to help many of us with this issue. It is your lifeline right now. They can actually analyze all of your debt and the options that you qualify for. And they can teach you how to cut interest rates and how to get yourself out of the debt that you've acquired during this terrible Biden administration. And they are at donewithdebt.com. It's donewithdebt.com. You go ahead and you select VNN at donewithdebt.com. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. I'm going to try it again. Donewithdebt.com. Can you say it, Kristin? Better than me?
Donewithdebt.com.
Yeah, that's it. So if you need help, if you need to figure out how to get out of the financial crunch you're in, these are the people for you.
That's great. You guys are great at segues into these into the advertisers. Well done. That's perfect. It was like, wow.
I learned from the best. I learned from the master, Ed Henry. He has taught me so much of what I know. I mean, we had this guy at our former network. He used to call himself the Zen Master. I don't know if you remember that, Joe, but I have to say that really, I think Ed Henry is the real Zen Master, because we can all look at, what was created so naturally just by him coming here on Rumble and starting Wake Up Patriots as just something that he wanted to do. He still wanted to connect with our core audience, all of the real Americans, and I can call them that because they actually are real Americans. Nobody can trademark that. But our chat really saw that and has become just so loyal to us, and I'm so thankful, and it happened naturally. So I'm going to say it here first. Ed Henry is the real Zen Master.
Yeah, he's great. I always loved it.
He is.
How about it? He's fantastic. Yeah,
he's fantastic.
He's an icon in the industry for sure. Yeah,
Absolutely.
And you two together, your morning show is fantastic. It's just really, it was the best, actually. Because I stopped watching Fox in 2020 at the election night. That night, they talked down to me all night. They put all these scoundrels on there that didn't like Trump, And on the business channel, you'd have Cavuto, not Lou Dobbs. On the other channel, we could listen to whoever, Martha McCollum or Brett Baer or whoever, these people that didn't like Trump. Wallace, what was it? Was it Mike Wallace? And then, with all that happened and the way they talked down to us, I was like, that's it. I am done. I've never watched Fox since. I used to watch religiously from overseas in Hong Kong, get up early to see Tucker and Hannity and even Laura Ingraham. Not anymore. Obviously Tucker's gone, but I don't even go there anymore. And you guys, so then you guys had the alternative, and I see you still do. So it's great.
We do, and it goes back to the conversation that we had earlier about taking out high achievers. We talked earlier about Caitlin Clark and the Olympics, and we talked about Donald Trump and they're taking him out. And it just seems like if you get to the point where you're going to, challenge authority and you're going to do a little bit more and you're going to create something great, that's just about the time that the people who aren't able to achieve want to come after you. And, certainly in the Caitlin Clark situation you were talking about earlier, you have these coaches that are up there that you would think for every reason would be her advocates, but they're not, because they don't want to see her do well. And unfortunately, sometimes we have a culture of not wanting to see others do well. And that goes for women in particular. I've encountered quite a few mean girl situations in my 40s and 50s that I was completely unprepared for. But it goes down to, just everyday interactions. And people not really accepting greatness. And it goes back to MAGA, make America great again. Don't we want to be better?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's you, and you're so right. And it happens everywhere. Gateway Pundit getting hammered because we've done some really great reports. We were coming out with some bombs after the election. My background was in audit and finance, and this was kind of just in my wheelhouse. And but everybody could see it. It's not like it was, something you need to be an international, audit executive. Everybody could see what was going on. And so, and we've been fooled. We've been fooled a lot. I guess that's the thing too. Maybe we've learned that over the last 4 years too. What corruption and what lies they tell us on a daily basis. That's why sites like this are growing. I had Rudy Giuliani on my show recently, and he talked about the Hunter Biden laptop and how that came out. And he and Bannon, they couldn't get anybody to pick it up. Fox wouldn't pick it up, so they just decided one day we're just going to push it to all the new media. And he felt like they succeeded. And I said, well, there's a poll from Rasmussen that says 62% of Americans believe the 2020 election was stolen. Another poll from Rasmussen, 66% believe January 6th was the setup. And then recently, a Rasmussen poll, 72% of Americans believe that the U.S. is in a police state. And so we are winning. We are winning. People aren't going to Fox anymore. I think there's just a lot of people like me that they just had enough. Won't do it anymore. Sorry, not going to listen to that garbage anymore. Want to go to some place where I'm respected, where greatness is still a value, and where I can, be free to share what I want to. And that's why these sites like this are just going to boom and continue to boom.
The power of the people. The power of the people. I mean, that's what this show has been about since the beginning. And Kristin, that authenticity that Ed and I have, you and I have that too. We're authentically friends. We're doing this together because we like to spend time together, and we thought it would be fun, and we love our audience most of all. And the reason that this is sustained is because it's so much more than a show. We're a community. We're all in this together, right, Kristin?
I mean, I'm when I'm looking down, I'm in the chat with with everyone, and my favorite comment. There's a few of them. Make mornings great again, Karyn. So all of there's about 1,000 people in the chat, 900 plus. And there's many make mornings great again, and I'm on board for that. I don't really watch regular TV because I've just put people on TV so many times running my business, doing PR, that I know how news is made. So I just don't tend to believe most of it anyways. So I haven't watched anything on TV for years.
Yeah, traditional media is pretty much dead at this point, Joe.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think, the ABC, NBC, nobody's going there anymore. I haven't in years. I think most people I know don't even go there. CNN cable, unfortunately, there's still some people that go there. But the thing that was really damaging was, and Trump mentioned this once when he was president, these guys are pushing lies. And they are, and the unfortunate thing is, overseas, you would get CNN. And you would think, oh my God, what's going on here? Trump must be a bad person. And I was the one guy over there who loved Trump, and I'd get so much flack, and I didn't care. As a matter of fact, this picture behind me of me shaking President Trump's hand, I actually received that at my 20-year anniversary at this company I was working for. They had a special Friday afternoon breakout session. Didn't tell anybody who it was for my 20th anniversary. And the present they gave me was this picture of me shaking Trump's hand. But it's not me, it's my head over Xi Jinping's body. So and the place roared when this, because they all knew I loved Trump, and it was the greatest gift they could give me. And so overseas they didn't know what we knew. And I'd talk to people, they'd be like, they'd be scratching their heads because they're not getting the information. And this is why they hate us so much, especially the media, the new media. These powers that be that hate exceptionalism, is we talk about exceptionalism and we talk about the truth, and you cannot have that and take over a free nation. You've got to destroy that. And that's why we're so powerful today. And it's important what we do.
And that's why China's so scared. And that's why we have all these people coming at us, because we are so powerful. And because, you know what, Donald Trump was willing to be the guy to rattle everybody's cages. And he did a really good job of doing it. And they are so afraid of him that all that they can do is, you know, prop him up on all of these felonies and try their hardest with their corruption to, you know, make the American people not be all for Donald Trump. But I don't know about you guys. Pretty much everybody I talked to, even people who 2 years ago would have said differently, are telling me, I don't see any other choice. You know, maybe they don't love Donald Trump, but they want to save this country. And what are the options?
Yeah. Yeah. Biden's a train wreck. Everybody can see that. You know, the media does a great job of covering up for him, but clearly a train wreck. I mean, this whole episode over in France this past week, just like, what's that? What was that?
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole theme of his presidency. What was that? What was that? And, you know, and I think it's sad that you think about this time in history and how future generations are going to look back on this and what a laughing stock we're going to be. You know, people make fun of the 80s, they make fun of the 70s. You know, this is going to be a decade that's going to be a force to be reckoned with in comedy, as far as when we look back on the history of this country.
Amen. Joe Biden.
You know, let's hope it's comedy. Let's hope it's not the time that they utterly destroy us. I'm going to go on the positive side since we're almost at the end of the show. It's probably the right thing to do, right, Kristin?
Let's leave on a positive note, because tomorrow's show is a little scary. Having a young child and to talk about indoctrination of children. So, but I'm looking forward to Wonderland Wednesdays tomorrow, Carolyn.
It's going to be good. It's going to be a rabbit hole. And we're going to follow up. I've had some requests for the audience for me to do my follow up on the Maui fires and what we learned there. So I'm going to bring a lot of stuff to the table tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be an interesting show. So hopefully everybody will stay tuned and we'll go down the rabbit hole tomorrow.
Yes, I think that's great. And Joe, they can find you on joehoft.com and Frank's speech, the Joe Hoft Show.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have you guys on anytime. You guys, be fun to catch up. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Forward.
Yeah.
It would. Hope to see you soon, Joe.
Yep.
And
Thank
Patriots,
you.
I think that pretty much wraps up